Okay. If you're watching this video, it is because you have finished annotating the article from Unit 2, Day 1, and you are working on filling out the SAFT format. So the first thing that we're asking is the speaker. What do we know about the speaker? So you're just trying to think through, like, what important things do you know about the author of this article? The first thing that I might point out is that he is male. You might also want to make a note that he is an adult. But you also know that he is formerly been bullied. And then as like those seem to be the three major things. But these things matter because we talk about it, like when we start talking about his purpose for writing, like we see in here, he's trying to explain to us like why men the way they are. He's trying to talk about like why men want to be so macho, why they don't want to show their feelings. But we're gonna listen to what he has to say because he is a man. Like we can trust that like his opinion is a valid opinion, or the things that he says are true because he's talking about the way men think, and him being a man gives him a little bit of like credibility for us to be like, yeah, okay, he probably knows what he's talking about. But we also want to talk about why him being an adult matters, because he talks a lot about being a child. And there's a difference between like an adult looking back on their childhood or an adult talking about a child versus like a child talking about being a child. And mostly because we're going to know he's a little bit more mature. He's probably learned from his mistakes already. And he looks at it with like the way adults look at things as opposed to a way a child looks at things. And the last thing that we want to point out is that he's formerly been bullied, which is going to influence the things he says about this stuff. So, like, he obviously doesn't seem to think it's a good thing that men don't share their feelings. And he seems to say, like, men don't share their feelings because we've been trained and, like, picked on to a point where, like, we feel like we should be tough. But I wonder if, like, if he had not been bullied, if he'd been the person beating somebody up, would he still think this is a bad thing? Which is the same thing we want to talk about, like, for him being male or him being an adult. Like, everything he's going to say is going to be influenced by the fact that he's a male or that he's an adult or that he's been bullied. And I might point out, like, this goes back to social identity, like his gender, his age, and then his abilities. Like, he couldn't defend himself, and therefore, like, he got bullied, he got beat up. And we want to keep in mind, like, how did those things influence the things he says as he writes? The next thing you're going to talk about is the audience. We know that this is intended for women. But you want to go beyond that. Yes, this is for women, but like, why would he be writing this to women? To help them understand male behavior. And why does he want them to understand male behavior? Well, if you come down to like the last little piece of the article here, and he starts talking about some men get shocked into sensitivity, some learn it through strong marriages. To help understand. So women can help to change it. Format, genre, article, poem. We know that the format of this speech was a magazine article. But we also know this magazine article uses lists and anecdotes. And anecdotes is probably a new word for you. But what an anecdote is like a short story or a small story. For example, the one he starts with at the beginning when he talks about like watching two kids walk and one getting hit with a backpack, he's using that anecdote to highlight the way men behave. Like the idea of that kid like intentionally letting himself get hurt just to prove how tough he is. He starts us off with that, so then he can talk about it in a more just like research-based way to explain why that kid let him happen to him. Uses lists and anecdotes to convey point. All right, and the word convey here means to show the point. Topic: what is he writing about? Said this a few times, but male behavior and how society influences male behavior. All right, and then this was the big one because this is what you were creating your inferences for. Author's purpose. What is the author trying to do when he writes this article? To me, the author is trying to explain to women, and all of a sudden now women, we're talking about the audience. Explain to women why men behave the way we do, and to present ideas for how male behavior might change. Alright, and I figure out a lot of the author's purpose from this last page. When he talks about, again, some men getting shocked into sensitivity, others learning it through marriage, and then talking like, it may be a long while, however, before male culture evolves to the point that boys can learn from one another and how more than how to hit a curveball. This line right here really reveals his purpose. Because when he says it's going to take a long while before male culture evolves to the point where boys can learn more from one another, he's saying, like, men are not going to teach this to each other. Men are not going to, like, turn to each other and be like, hey, man, you should be more sensitive. Hey, man, it's okay to talk about your feelings. And it seems like part of the reason he's writing this article is to try to convince women that they should play a part in that. Women should be trying to lean on their men or convince men to become more sensitive, to listen to feelings. All right? If you finished all this, you are done for today. Thank you.